my fellow Antiguans and Barbudans, residents and friends. I take pleasure in addressing you at the dawn of what we all expect to be a very exciting and eventful new year. I invite you now to join with me in giving praise and thanks to Almighty God for the blessings which He has so graciously bestowed upon us. We call upon Him, as we have done in the past, to continue to guide us in the pursuit of all of our endeavors, to continue to enlighten us and enrich our lives, and to continue to fortify us with the power and the passion to face and confront the challenges which the new year will inevitably bring. Now, more than ever, we call upon our Creator to grant all His people here in Antigua and Barbuda the fulfillment of the desires of our hearts, all in His precious name, and all for His honor and for His glory. My wife Jackie, my son Juno, and my daughter Jenée and I extend our heartfelt best wishes to all of you for a new year filled with peace, love, and prosperity, and the successful achievement of your innermost dreams, ambitions, and deeply felt aspirations. In extending these New Year wishes to you, my heart goes out to members of our Antigua and Barbuda family who, in the past year, have passed to the great beyond. My family and I share with their families and friends the sadness of their loss. We have no doubt that you take comfort in the joy of reflecting on the very many special moments and occasions which you shared with one another. One cannot help but ponder for a while as well on all those who are ill or bedridden and are unfortunately confined to our hospitals or at home or abroad, all those who are sick and shut in. I ask you to join with me in lifting them up in prayer and in conveying our best wishes and that of the government for a speedy return to good health for them all. In the same spirit, we express our deep appreciation and gratitude to those who look over our loved ones who are so afflicted. Your unselfish dedication and sacrifice in rallying at the bedsides of our loved ones deserve the nation's warm and heartfelt commendation. Fellow citizens, residents, and friends, while reflecting upon the message I wish to share with you today, I could not help but dwell on the fact that today we, as a people, are living in one of the most momentous and awesome eras in the history of our young, independent, and evolving nation. Make no mistake about it, our nation, Antigua and Barbuda, the nation which we love so dearly, has arrived at an important crossroad. Together, we have labored tirelessly and hard. Together, we have traversed the long and winding road. Together, we have endured incalculable hours of setting our economy on the right track. You have been at our sides every step throughout the struggle. Some of the struggles from the past continue to haunt us. We continue to fight the infamous Morris Safati Royden Farms promissory note case. The IHI Japanese loan of over $200 million remain a burden, and the Airport Creative Fund loan, just to name a few, are some of the challenges we continue to face. We ask you to remain at our sides as we continue to put our nation on a path of growth and development, a path of creating a new society. Over the last 5 years, we have experienced the collapse of our single largest private sector employer. We have lived through the worst global economic crisis since the Great Depression. And while I know that people are still struggling across our Twin Island state, we have seen ourselves through the worst part of the storm, and the harsh effects of the international economic turbulence seems to be subsiding. The United Progressive Party government came to power at the eve of the worst global financial and economic crisis since the Great Depression of the 1930s, the worst in 77 years. Factually, consequentially, logically, and actually, the impact was even more devastating on the regional and national economies, a crisis which saw more than 90% of the entire world economy melting down. Developed countries, including France, Britain, Italy, and the United States, saw unemployment figures and job losses of unprecedented numbers. In the early months of the worst financial and economic crisis in living memory, 500,000 jobs were being lost per month in the United States. In Antigua and Barbuda, when things got tough, we could have given up. We could have, as some of our sister islands have done, laid off thousands of government workers and massively cut pensions. But we did not. We stood strong for Antiguans and Barbudans. Today we continue to stand strong and united as one people, armed with confidence and assurance as we build a new society. Ladies and gentlemen, safely, surely, and securely, we have arrived at the crossroads. The end of our second term is drawing nigh. We look back with pride that we have, in the worst of times for the global economy, made sure and steady progress for our people. Fearlessly and valiantly, we successfully navigated the worst conditions. And intelligently and carefully, we, the United Progressive Party, piloted our people out of the dangerous waters that stubbornly and dangerously threatened to consume our beloved nation since 2003. Now, as the year 2014 comes into focus, the question which we should all be asking ourselves is this: now that we have made sure and steady progress advancing the cause of the nation, what does the future now hold for citizens of Antigua and Barbuda? What does it hold for our families and for ourselves in the years ahead? And which leaders have the right character, faith, and values to boldly lead our country toward 2020? My dear Antiguans and Barbudans, residents and friends, no abundance of best wishes or requests for conferment of God's richest blessings for the new year and the years beyond will be genuine and sincere if we do not anchor these sentiments in the context of sure and steady progress which, together as a people, we have made over the last 10 years, and secondly, determine under what circumstances we propose to build upon this progress in the next 5 years. Within the next few months, you will be called upon to decide what kind of leadership you want to see take us forward toward 2020. You will be called upon to make 3 of the most crucial decisions you have ever had to make for your country, for your family, and for yourself. Here are the decisions. Decision number 1. Now that Antigua and Barbuda has arrived at the crossroads, whose hands will secure the future wealth and prosperity of our beloved nation now, in the foreseeable future, and for generations to come? Decision number 2. Now that we have arrived at the crossroads, whose hands will bring the highest possible quality of life for yourself and your family? And finally, decision number 3. Now that we have arrived at the crossroads, whose hands will emphatically and faithfully build a strong foundation for your children's future, the future of your grandchildren, and that of your great-grandchildren? I ask the question, in whose hands? My fellow Antiguans and Barbudans, your responses to these questions will determine whether we choose to return to the path of mismanagement and despair, or whether as a modern, enriched, and elevated society, we continue to make sure and steady progress towards building a new society. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the harsh reality. Thankfully, these decisions are yours to make. No one else can make them for you. Those sacred, solemn, and compelling choices are in your hands. Despite all the gloom and ghastly realities in the international community as a result of the global financial crisis, and having resisted the pressure from international agencies to cut the public service by 15+%, your government continued on a path of growth and development. We assisted with the Abbey bailout of over $40 million. We played a major role in the ECAP stabilization with close to $90 million. We paid outstanding debts in the hundreds of millions of dollars, debts left unpaid by previous ALP administrations. We increased pensions to our elderly, and we continued, and where possible, enhanced our social programs. Antigua and Barbuda under the United Progressive Party has done well. We saved the Social Security scheme by keeping our contributions current, repaying debts left by previous ALP administrations, and we never borrowed a single cent from the scheme. The Board of Guardians and the school uniform program continued. The school meals program was expanded, and the Petro-Carib Senior Citizens Subsidy Program continues to provide for the elderly of our society. 2014 will mark the third successive year of growth for our nation's economy. It will be a year of growth and opportunity as the UPP administration continues to guide our country's ongoing transformation from insolvency to stability, from decline to expansion. Antigua and Barbuda will end 2013 having experienced growth for a second consecutive year after 3 years of recession from a global meltdown. Our fiscal and economic outlook is no longer foreshadowed by decline and stagnation. In the face of almost insurmountable odds, we have stayed the course, and it is working. Naturally, therefore, in 2014, we will continue to build on these gains, to consolidate our restructuring efforts, to equip our citizens and residents with the wherewithal to contribute to our development, and to provide an environment in which the private sector will flourish as the main engine of economic growth. We acknowledge and applaud those members of the business community that have stepped forward thus far to partner with the government on such programs as the Construct Antigua and Barbuda Initiative, the Small Business Credit Guarantee Scheme, and the Mind of Your Business program. We anticipate that such collaboration will escalate in the year ahead, particularly in the areas of skills training and work experience. Among the initiatives in this regard is the Enterprise Achievement Challenge, which will place successful applicants with skills-based enterprises with a view to preparing them to undertake sustainable self-employment. The Government Employment and Training Opportunities Program is yet another initiative to build workforce capacity among our people through life skills training, retraining, and competency certification. It must be noted that these programs variously target youth, single mothers, and persons between the ages of 17 and 50. The United Progressive Party administration recognizes the importance of investment, both foreign and domestic, to the economic fortunes of our nation. That is why we enacted sunset legislation in the form of the Tourism and Business Special Incentives Act. This legislation will facilitate existing investors who wish to expand, as well as potential entrepreneurs, by offering them an alluring package of concessions during the next 2 years. We are also aware that the kind of investment we envisage to move this country forward requires a high standard of infrastructure, the funding for which has hitherto not been forthcoming on the scale we require. However, in 2014, we will greatly increase expenditure on our roads, schools, healthcare facilities, and historic sites, with financing from the National Development Fund. The resources for this fund will come from the Citizenship by Investment Program and from government securities, including a diaspora bond. These initiatives will be bolstered by a number of capital projects in various stages of development, including the Antigua Department of Marine Services Office Complex and the State Insurance Corporation/Government Office Building. Our tremendous strides in revenue and expenditure reform cannot be understated, for our triumphs are due in no small measure to the reorganization of our customs, inland revenue, and treasury functions. We will continue to reap the benefits of these reforms in 2014. We continue to be thankful for the contribution of our development partners to our successes thus far, to the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the European Union, the Caribbean Technical Assistance Center, the Caribbean Development Bank, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and the British Department for International Development, whose technical and/or financial assistance has enabled us journey along with the support of friendly countries, the People's Republic of China, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, the Republic of Cuba, the Republic of South Korea, the United Kingdom, Canada, the United States of America, Brazil, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and member countries of the ECCU and the wider Caribbean Community CARICOM. My fellow Antiguans and Barbudans, residents and friends, let us, however, not fool ourselves. There is still a great deal of work to be done. There will be a lot on our plate when you return us to office in 2014. Let me put all of this in perspective. You will recall that on the occasion of the celebration of the 31st anniversary of our independence, I shared with you a brief overview of the current state of our nation, a nation standing tall and erect, stern and visionary after a mere 32 years of the shaping of our own destiny. Together we focused on an unprecedented journey, heading toward a destination, clearly envisioned, yet to be explored, but eager to be realized. It was and still is a vision forged from an indefatigable unity of purpose, transformed into an abiding unity of purpose. We were focused, we were committed, and we took up our beds and traveled the rugged, long, and winding road towards nationhood, self-determination, and self-reliance. It has been for most of us a journey towards nationhood indelibly marked by precious milestones of pride, pleasure, and joy, and elegantly emblazoned with landmarks which have been good, beautiful, and excellent in many respects, but unfortunately mired along the way by an unwarranted and unforgettable period of the bad, the brazen, and the ugly. Almost 10 years ago, we rechartered the ship of state and regained our right course, a course which, as Antiguans and Barbudans, stout-hearted and resolute as we have always been, we were prepared never to be distracted from, in spite of the malicious intents and indiscreet indulgences of those whose record of performance on their leg of the leadership role, which they were charged with the responsibility to undertake, left so much to be desired, much to decry, and much more to be detested. Our quest to build a new Antigua and Barbuda, a new society gained momentum months after coming into office in 2004. There were multifaceted combinations of perilous and precipitous factors which served to propel you, the good people of this country, to place your confidence, faith, and trust in the one group of dedicated and committed patriots, the United Progressive Party, who for the past 10 years I have had the pleasure and privilege of leading as your Prime Minister. Let me be the first to remind you that even before we assumed office, we leveled with you and made it clear that the challenge of restoring and reconstructing Antigua and Barbuda's economy and resuming our pride of place among the international family of nations was not going to be easy. The journey to recovery and restoration, given the complexity of its very nature, and further aggravated by the economic crisis which the world at large was facing, was destined to be long, hard, and painful, and at times treacherous. We took the pains to provide you for the inevitable reality that the recovery of our nation from the precipitous state in which it had been unapologetically plunged by the Antigua Labour Party regime would have required tremendous personal sacrifices of all dimensions and the inevitable endurance of shortfalls and inconveniences which you would never before have been called upon to undergo. It had become the nation's special burden to carry, and many a time, as your dedicated and committed government, we would have had to call upon you to join with us when we had to take it to the Lord in prayer. Today, thanks to your resilience, your determination, your forthrightness, your wisdom, your understanding, and our management of the economy and public services, those dark and dismal days are long past, behind us. Even as we navigated our ship of state through rough waters, there had been many moments of joy and happiness for which we must not fail to give praise and thanks, and which we must forever treasure even as we seek to continue the journey under still challenging but more favorable conditions. For with the grace of God, even as we navigated the dark and treacherous fallout from previous ALP administrations and the effects of the global economic crisis, your UPP government, people-focused and people-centered, took all the necessary steps to ease the burden on our citizens, the end result of which was that we were placed on the road to a new society, an era of growth and opportunity. My fellow Antiguans and Barbudans, residents and friends of Antigua and Barbuda, the government remains committed to transforming Antigua and Barbuda. A significant component of transforming our nation is ensuring that our education system meets international standards. Another major commitment made by the UPP administration is to correct that great injustice meted out to thousands of our young people by previous ALP administrations, depriving them of having access to a national public library. I am pleased to announce that on the 15th of January 2014, the Board of Education will hand over to the Public Works Department a fully constructed national public library for all Antiguans and Barbudans. That day will be an historical and momentous occasion for all Antiguans and Barbudans. Once again, the United Progressive Party administration has delivered to the people of this nation. It is also a pledge to continue the ICT revolution sweeping across our nation. Following the success of our award-winning GATE initiative, the Ministry of Telecommunications, Science and Technology will launch in 2014 an ambitious, multifaceted program that will make a tangible and virtual impact on thousands of individuals. HEART, the Human Entrepreneurship and Assistive Resource Technologies Program, represents a bold and passionate commitment on the part of my government to leverage on information and communication technologies to transform and touch the lives of ordinary Antiguans and Barbudans. HEART will also provide technology upgrades to the Adelaide School, the Adele School, the National Vocational and Rehabilitation Center for Disabilities, the Clearview Hospital, the Fines Institute, as well as homes for the aged. No one will be left behind. Entrepreneurship is also a key component of HEART. In fact, technopreneurship is a more appropriate term, as the link between technology and entrepreneurship has already been made. Startup business weekends, mobile app development, digital photography workshops, and an empowerment program for secondary school girls are also core components of HEART. I am confident that HEART will inspire Antiguans and Barbudans to challenge their intellectual boundaries and embrace new ideas. This program's unique blend of entrepreneurship and social responsibility represents my government's commitment to a global reach by ordinary Antiguans and Barbudans. We were also encouraged in the sector of education through our unparalleled award of over 3,000 scholarships to our young people, fortifying them with the highest level of qualifications to take the country forward as we prepare ourselves to hand over to their caring and intelligent minds the future of the country. In spite of the recession, your government has spent more money on education and sent more people on scholarships than any other in the history of our country. We take pride that we had been able to relieve the burden on our expectant mothers by way of exemption of duty and consumption tax on essential baby items. We kept our young charges fully nourished through the introduction of the National School Meals Program and watched over them as they walked the streets of Antigua and Barbuda proudly and confidently to and from school in their well-designed and neatly clad uniforms, all because of the government's school uniforms grant. We facilitated those whose overseas relatives came to the rescue of their families, and by extension, the country as a whole, with the dollar barrel program, the benefits of which some of you are still enjoying. In spite of the scarce and limited resources which were left behind, we bite the bullet and ensured increases in pensions for our elderly who have had to endure the pains and sorrows of the recklessness of the past. Our elders are the architects of this country. They labored hard and long so that we might be here today. My government has worked with our elders on challenging issues in the past. I recall the departure tax exemption and the home improvement grants. We will continue to work with our elders, to listen to them and to address the difficult issues that will no doubt arise in the future. To ease the pain on all homemakers during our quest to build a new society, we arranged for no further property tax to be levied on homes valued less than $100,000. We arranged for all small businesses to share in the procurement of goods and services for all government contracts. We brought joy to the hearts of our taxi, bus, and tour operators when we removed customs duties and consumption taxes on essential vehicular parts, which need regular and frequent replacement. All this my government did. All this in the midst of a raging global financial storm, the magnitude of which the world had never before seen since the darkness of the Great Depression. My good people, take a quick glance over your shoulder, and you will remember the fact that in the midst of trials and tribulations, no less than 135 of our election pledges made to you in 2004 had been accomplished in our first term in office. compare the record figure of more than 256 pledges quietly, calmly, and proudly honored by the United Progressive Party administration. 135 in our first term and 121 honored so far. Compare this figure of 256 with the unimpressive, unbelievable, and disgraceful record of a handful of pledges delivered by the ALP from their 1999 manifesto. The numbers speak for themselves and leave, even to this day, one question still unanswered in our heads. What did the ALP do with the people's money? Even more, my good people, can we really trust putting our country back into the hands of the same ALP gang that sunk our treasury even in the midst of global economic boom times? During our 2 terms in office, we introduced a wide variety of measures and provided generously for the welfare of our citizens to the extent that we can claim the distinction of being the most successful performing government in the history of Antigua and Barbuda. No honest, patriotic, and right-thinking citizen can deny the fact that thousands of people have benefited from our programs and our governance. If not in education and youth empowerment, most certainly in the recovery of the economy. Our image on the international stage has been fully restored with the new climate of international relations which we have established with our neighbors within the OECS, CARICOM, Cuba, the ALBA, CELAC, and Venezuela, and much farther afield with China and South Korea, the fruits of which we have already begun to reap. Incentives for new housing construction and expansion of existing residences have made life more comfortable for many. Healthcare delivery, in spite of some irritations, has never been so universal and technologically advanced, while our people, who now make use of our social services, rest in the comfort that the path to making life less burdensome is now much more available, accessible, and people-friendly. We have extended clinic hours and opened vision centers in 3 communities. Our tourism sector, the mainstay of our economy, has seen an upsurge. The announcement of the New Beaches Resort, the Azure Bay Project, Perns Point Development, Elite Resorts Project, the expansion of the VC Bird International Airport, and the thousands of jobs that these projects are creating show that investors are confident in the future of our economy. The Ball Panel Manufacturing Company, the Bio Antigua Project, the State Insurance Corporation building, and the Antigua and Barbuda Merchant Shipping Headquarters will also inject sizable investments into the economy and create jobs for thousands of Antiguans and Barbudans. Overall, more than $1 billion are expected to be spent in the next 2 to 3 years in various sectors of the economy, generating an estimated 3,000 direct jobs. Our commitment to gender equality has already borne fruit with the unprecedented number of our women holding high office in all walks of life. Our communities are alive and buzzing with activities of all dimensions, while all efforts are being made to ensure that our citizens go about their daily chores in an environment in which their safety and security remain our constant concern. All this in an atmosphere in which the grace of Almighty God continues to be showered upon our blessed land. Physically strong, spiritually grounded, and morally sound as a people and as a country. This, my dear fellow citizens, is the Antigua and Barbuda which the UPP had envisioned when we took office in 2004, and which you returned us to office to continue the journey in 2009. Now, Antigua and Barbuda, we march into this new society rescued from the clutches of those who mismanaged and raped our society. My people, We have struggled together, argued together, laughed together, and labored and developed together in situations of unprecedented challenge. And through it all, we have continued to move surely and steadily forward. The struggles which we have all had to endure over the past 10 years are beginning to recede. Morning is breaking through the night. Sparkling on the horizon, our new society is within reach. As we face this brand new day coming, let us resolve to keep the ship of state in hands that are tested and true, hands that even in the worst of times never faltered, never wavered, and which always remained engaged in the betterment and in the service of you, the people. Let us therefore recommit ourselves to continuing the journey forward for the good and welfare of all, and particularly for the future well-being of our children and grandchildren. Let us rededicate our lives from here on to traverse the blue skies which, by dint of our valiant and untiring efforts, have now been opened up before us as we continue to chart the course destined to a future filled with the blessings of peace and prosperity for all, and an abiding faith in the unconditional goodness and abundant grace of the Creator, the source from which all good things originate. Let us be watchful, prayerful, and vigilant, never to be led back into those dark and dismal clouds now fading behind us. Let me, in conclusion, thank each and every one of you who have labored in the vineyard, regardless of the circumstances, friend or foe, in the good times or in the bad times, in sickness or in health. Let me thank all of you for the faith and confidence which you continue to repose in the government, and more specifically, for the tremendous and exceptional contributions you have made in moving Antigua and Barbuda forward onto a proud and prominent stage of development and growth. Your efforts have been substantially rewarded. As we move forward into the new year, we are moving into the right direction to meet the set targets of 60% of GDP. Antigua and Barbuda now pays less on its debt because of prudent debt management practices. Preliminary data has also indicated more people found jobs in 2013, and with new projects coming on stream in 2014, even more will gain employment. We have also instituted a new culture in economic management. Very soon, I will come to you seeking another mandate. Till then, you have my assurance that as long as the UPP government remains in office and continues the journey ordained for the nation of Antigua and Barbuda, your hard work will continue to be honored, treasured, and respected. And now, as I close, let me once again extend to you the best wishes of the government, my family, and myself for the happiest of days of your life in the year 2014 and beyond. And may Almighty God's richest blessings be bestowed upon each and every one of you. May God bless our beautiful nation, Antigua and Barbuda. Thank you, fellow citizens, residents, and friends.